Hey you guys, and welcome to my channel. In this video, we're going to talk about the high range narcissist. The high range narcissist, guys. Are you ready? Are you ready? Okay. It's certainly, going to feel a difference from a high range narcissist versus a low range narcissist. High range narcissists tend to be intelligent. They actually have the book smarts and they have emotional intelligence as well. These people can be amazingly critical thinkers, plotters and planners. So they are the true master manipulators. When I talked about my lower range narcissists, or, in that video, to me, they were remedial in their, processes. They're typically not the book smart ones, okay? But once we get into the side of the high range narcissist, or we're progressing up to that kind of narcissist, yeah, they are typically very, very, very analytical, deep critical thinkers, and like I said, just intelligent, but they use this information, they use that knowledge just for their own selfish desires, and they don't have a problem with hurting any person, place, or thing, stepping on it, obliterating it to get what they want accomplished. And this is, the darker side of narcissism. And it may not seem like it at first glance because these people are typically very established. They are the power players. They get into those positions in society because image is that much more important to them. They need to be admired. They need to be socially accepted image-wise. That's typical. I'm just saying that's typical here for the high-range narcissist. And also, guys, this person, once we're getting high on the spectrum of narcissism, we're talking about someone that is, chances are, a psychopath at this point. Chances are that narcissist, once it's, high range, it's typically a psychopath, which is even more complex, even more controlled than a sociopath, which I would put in the mid-range narcissistic. But for high range, we're talking about psychopaths more than not. So, we can add that element into it as well. And that's why I titled this Power Hungry, Covert, Malignant Narcissist. And that, is a mouthful in itself, guys. But this is, what we're dealing with. And when I say power hungry, yeah, power hungry externally and internally, to the public's eye and outside of it. And that's why, they take a lot of leadership roles. It could be even as simple as being in corporate America and being the manager of a department. That could be overseen by a high range narcissist. And then it can obviously be a lot greater than that, to holding high political positions in our society and, being a part of the lawmakers and law enforcement and clergy, and all these type of roles, and then some, guys. But here's the thing. They may have that outward appearance as being a do-gooder. They may. More than not, they will. But then behind that mask, like I said, is the darker side of narcissism. And it's a lot more sinister and cunning And, there's so much entitlement and a severe need for control, and definitely a desperate need for approval and positive attention, more than not. And the poor empathy and aggression that they house, allows them to do horrible things. So they're either going to be in a position where they're trying to protect a squeaky clean image, or they would succumb to their dark side and be the master manipulator on that end of the spectrum. Think of someone, for those of you who've been around New Jack City, that Nino Brown character, he succumbed to his dark side. I mean, he's still a master manipulator, right? But you see the sadistic side of him. And when he went into court, he tried to be covert about that, of course. And for those of you who've never seen that movie, that came out in, I believe, was it the early 90s or the late 80s? I want to say the early 90s. And he's a notorious drug dealer. Big time. And, you've seen how fragile his ego was, how easily he was to lash out if he felt humiliated. He was going to humiliate you. But, he didn't mind putting these drugs in the communities and all the families that it devastated and the lives that it took. And that's the thing about, the high range narcissists. They have the potential, more than any of the others to, like I said, destroy families, communities, nations, okay? It can get that far, guys. And, this high range narcissist is, like I said, is typically a hybrid between being a narcissist and being a psychopath. Now, if you have come into contact with this person, God bless you. God bless you, because they've thought so far into the situation before they've even probably said hello to you. They, narcissists do have this cycle of abuse, but when we get into this level of sophistication, these people could be your worst nightmare. And I'm not saying that for anyone to be leading their life in fear or to be intimidated by these people, because, nobody's perfect and everyone has their weak spots. And if someone is waging war against you, they're obviously, these are emotional vampires as well, and they're attacking you spiritually, and they're abusing you, often in so many ways. But these people are so cunning and clever about it. It may be even subtle that you don't even realize what you're exposing yourself to until after the fact. When these people are done with you and you start really seeing the situation, whatever resistance you had that didn't allow you to see things, or once they start devaluing and discarding you and drop the mask and they made it obvious, and you're thinking about this situation, you will see how it was so much more than what met the eye at the time. Like everything they did had a lot of meaning to it. It was very strategic. It was setting you up for something else even bigger that they had planned down the line. They want to recruit. They want to recruit nations on a larger scale. They want to be in bed with them, to help. Hey, you want to come and serve my agenda, and the reward will be, something shallow. Like, okay, well, I don't mind giving you the money. And then it depends, if they're just setting you up, they'll make a promise and burn you if you're totally just dispensable. Like they weren't really trying to really recruit you. They're just trying to use you as a pawn. Ultimately, everyone's a pawn It's just that, what is the length of time in which they're willing to sacrifice that pawn? Some pawns they want to keep, on their side for quite some time. And other pawns are going to be quicker to be disposed of and have a shorter, life with that narcissist as far as, the amount of time that they need to keep that person around. But ultimately, that's what they're recruiting. Like, are you willing to come and be down with me? You want to come to the dark side with me? You want to be a yes? That's going to require certain things. But if you are in extreme toxicity and a codependent that just wants to feel accepted, getting with a person like this, they're going to accept you on a certain level as long as you get the job done. So that feeds into your toxicity of wanting to feel wanted by being needed. And that is what I did say about, codependence in my video. And I'll link that one to the end if you are struggling with codependency and you want to have some further insight into that. But yeah, they're putting you in that role to feel needed, as far as they're going to let you do the dirty work. They will let you be the jester, back in the jester that makes the king and queen laugh. That's there to entertain. That's there to clean up the mess. That's there to take orders. Someone that's not comfortable with making the decisions, that's going to have low self-esteem in that department. Someone that's okay with somebody else taking the authority and the control of the situation is going to work out good in this kind of setup, guys. And that's what they want. And that's what makes it a match in heaven when they get, with a codependent or a toxic empath who's willing to be the sacrificial lamb. But here's the thing. There's no act that you can do. There's no amount of love, patience that you can give that will give you sincere reciprocation and love from a person like this. And those shallow aspects and breadcrumbs. And like I said, the shallow aspect, okay, they're going to give you a bunch of money perhaps. But trust me, you're only as good with a person like this. When they're treating you like this and there's no emotional connection, you're only as good as the last thing you've done for them. You could have done 1,000 things before that right, and you did the last thing wrong. That's how they don't have a long memory, like, oh, this person has been my loyal servant. And I'm going to say it like that because you're bowing down and it's on their time. It's your time too, of course. It's still your time, but you're using your time to be on their time. That's a better way of putting that. They're not going to think, oh, she's been there for me for 10 years. They meet somebody else that's stronger and better suited, or they think can pull off whatever the manipulation and suit them better. You're done. You're done. All that other stuff, okay. I'm finished now. I'm done with you. There's no loyalty there. All the loyalty is to their agenda, and that's their supply, guys. So there's no such thing as being on their good side. You're just either you're a pawn or you're not a pawn. And if you're not a pawn, you are an enemy, basically. But their emotional maturity is dark and gloomy. It doesn't believe in love. They were shown at a young age that that's a lie, because their primary caretakers weren't there. This person probably came from a situation where they never felt good enough. This is why they're becoming overachievement. They think that they can do acts. They think that they could do things to be valued and worthy by that primary caretaker, who chances are is narcissistic themselves, or no one showed them. It's like a domino effect, and now they're emotionally unavailable, and they've showed this person that they dropped the ball and it made them feel unlovable. Inherently, they made them feel unlovable. And they're like, well, this is my mother, this is my father, this person doesn't love me, nobody in the fucking world loves me. And that's how they go about life. Like, you can't possibly love me, they didn't. It's only going to be a matter of time before you do it too. So you can't convince them otherwise. They have joined the other side and they have accepted this reality in life. And this is why I tell you guys to really watch the story that you tell yourselves. Because you say it enough times, it starts seeping into your subconscious, and that becomes your reality. That becomes your reality. So, you know, we really have to mind the story. And they're so stuck in that story, is no way to get out of it. Is no way to get out of it, guys. And the lies, you know, obviously there's a running theme of lying, and it's habitual and perpetual. Like, the lies never stop. It rolls off their tongue. They look you in the eye. So you try to use all the body language experts. They give you advice. Oh, if they're doing this, they're doing that. These people will lie without a flinch. They will get the Academy Award like they are reading a script, and they got paid $1 million for this. Like, they've perfected this because it's played out itself many times in their life, and this is how they get what they want. They're gonna lie, you know. To them, the truth is, you know, only good when it's used to bring someone else under, you know, and they're constantly gathering truth externally from others and storing it, just like the lower range narcissists, but on a higher scale. They're storing it so for the day that they need to present that to you, like, oh, you're trying to leave me? I don't think I would do that if I were you. You know, what are we going to do about this, that? You know, you don't want people to find out about this. You know, they find out about anything you're doing, and best believe you will be on the chopping block if they know these things. And, you know, whatever that they can use to them is a negotiation. But, you know, it's a stick up, really. And they're threatening you to keep you, you know, on a leash, to keep you in a darkness, if you will, to keep you serving their agenda. And then if they don't have that, then, you know, oh, I know where your mother lives. I know who your children are. I know who your wife is. If you care about them, you know, it just depends on the situation. And they put you in a rock and a hard place. And oftentimes, you know, I'm just going to be real with you. The only way out of those situations is to eliminate them, you know. And that's why a lot of them, you know, they pass through murder, because people get tired of the threats. They get tired of that, and they meet that person eventually. And because of the ego, they underestimate this person, and they come for them. They're like, you know what, I'm tired of living my life this way. I want to be free. And they know the only way to be free is for their life to end. And that is on the highest level, because it's like a machine. They're going to keep going. Even when it's obvious that, you know, things are turning against their favor, if they have a lick of breath left, if they have a lick of energy, they're going to keep attacking. And like I said way earlier in this audio, is to death at that point. And that's the war. And they're willing to sacrifice themselves. They're willing to do that to get you, you know. And their vessels are being used. Their vessels are being used for the most heinous crimes you could ever think of, that would make you sick, that would make you want to throw up, like literally. Like, how could a human being even be so low? But it's beyond a human being. Like I said, they're demonic filled. They're demonic filled on the highest of levels, guys. Because with them, guys, there's no low. You know, a person with empathy that's not narcissistic, you'll get to a place where it'll be like, you know what, now you're taking it too far. Now you're taking it too far. But they don't have that place. So when you're going up against someone that can go in that energy, you know, and yeah, I said they have a lot of intellect, so they'll have the book smarts that the lower range narcissists won't, but they're far more darker. They're far more sadistic, you know, and they kind of think like the lower range narcissists as far as the concept of it's a dog eat dog world. And that's why narcissists operate the way that they do. But the higher range ones, you know, they'll feel like, you know what, everyone has a price. You know, they'll be surprised if you don't have a price. You know, they are that much more suspicious of anything. So you come to them actually demonstrating light and being good-hearted, they're going to think, okay, when do we get to the real you? Or where is that person's, what's that person's price? Or, you know, everyone has a dark side, and I'll get access to this person. You know, they have a price. And now you're in a situation where, typically speaking, where the lower narcissists, they usually don't have the resources, you know, the material, financial resources to pull things together on a level that they really want to. And they're trying to find other, you know, they use their supplies to be strong in that area for them to try to achieve this. But once you get to this high level narcissist, here you have a person that usually has all the resources they need to pull off, you know, the revenge, or to pull off, you know, whatever they're trying to accomplish, guys. So that makes them dangerous as well. And then let's say you don't have as much resources as them. You know, they're able to use those resources to create illusions and manipulate evidence and, you know, cause things to go in their favor. And it's not fair, but it's the world that we live in, and they understand that. So, you know, if you're dealing with a person like this, you have to step into your logic and out of your emotions and see how much more unfair it could be in certain instances. Does it mean that they can never have a day of reckoning, that they never held accountable and stuff like that? Not saying that. I'm not saying that. When that happens, you know, and that's usually when people turn on them that are of the higher places, it means that they needed to be on their side to be able to be vindicated, or to not, you know, have that accountability. When those people turn on them, often then that's how that can happen. But these people, they usually have a trap door. They're always thinking about not just the plan B, C, D, F. They go on all the way down to Z a lot of times, you know. But nobody is perfect and without flaws. So when I make this video, it's not for you guys to be afraid of them per se, to think that, okay, well, nobody can step to a high level narcissist. That's not true. That's not true. They have loopholes as well, and things about them that, you know, can be exposed. You know, for them, it's the ego. It's the ego that tends to get them. And that's why they do say in the Bible that pride cometh before that fall, you know. It's their ego that tends to get them every time. With all the intelligence that they have and the emotional maturity, it's the ego, you know. It is the ego that gets them, because they don't know when to stop. There's no grace with them, and that is a part of their vulnerability. No matter how intelligent they are, or how high up, and, you know, in some areas, okay, honey, in some areas of life, you know, being aggressive and being like in beast mode and going, you know, that can be beneficial. And they could use that type of energy to be successful in life when they set out to have a goal, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to do that. You know what I mean? So in certain instances, it could work for them. But then there are cases where they just had to go back and embezzle one more time. They just had to go back and do, X, Y, and Z one more time. And it was that one more time that ended up sealing their fate. And they could have been getting away with this for decades and decades and decades. But it was that one more time. There's a level of greed, is really true with them. The eyes of man are never satisfied when it comes to the eyes of men like that. They're just never satisfied. They believe in overkill. That's why I believe the words that I used before were demolishing. Like they're not just trying to tit for tat. They're trying to, if you do a tit for them, it's going to be like, it's war. That's why I just regarded it to as war. It could have been the smallest slight, like I said. And like I said, they believe everyone has their price. And then when you try to them is acting like a goody two shoes when you're trying to act like you don't have a price. And then when they finally, if you bow down and you succumb to that, like, oh, now you're talking my game. Now you're talking, They use the dark side of human nature and psychology to their advantages and ultimately to their disadvantage too, if you're following along with what I'm trying to relay here, okay? But these people, and there's been lots and lots of displays of them, and you see their work. They are a force to be reckoned with. They're very demonic filled, and how you meet someone and they're on the dark side, you're like, oh, that's Satan's cousin. You'll think they're the antichrist. When you're getting on a high range, you're not thinking it's just a relative of the devil or Satan. You're thinking they're Satan himself. Like there is a stronger demonic entity that's dwelling inside of these people, and it's raging and it is relentless. So the best way to win in these situations is to disconnect yourself, guys. And I really want to bring that home. And I don't, like I said, I don't want to make them like the big bad wolf that nobody can conquer, that nobody can get any type of revenge over. But you have to really weigh, what is that revenge going to cost me? If I strike in this way against them, understand they're going to strike back. And like I said a few moments ago and several times through the video, when they strike back, they're not just coming for what they believe you owe them. They want interest on it upon interest upon interest. And like I said, it's like a overkill mentality. They want to make sure that you never think of coming against them again. So you have to know thy enemy in this case. And if you decide to wage the war against them, and that's what I'm going to call it, what you're going to get, what they're going to do in return. Okay. You have to really know thy enemy and know their weaknesses and all of that. All right. So, this is why I'm going to say, like, yes, the high range narcissists, these are truly the masters of manipulations. But they're not manipulating a situation for light. They're doing it for darkness. With everything that they could do with their intelligence, like I said, they're using it for darkness. Just like the lower range narcissists, they have a faulty brain. The part of the cortex of the brain that deals with empathy, does not function properly, among other aspects of their brain. So this doesn't give them a pass, of course, because they still know they shouldn't be doing these things, but they don't have the empathy to feel bad about it. And, with these people, they have what I would call, or what's called, a primitive binary lens, meaning, there's no gray areas with them. Either you are a friend or an enemy. Everything is pretty black or white. They won or they lost. And these people want to win at any cost. And when I say any cost, I mean any cost. When we go to the highest end of the spectrum, like they'll be willing to lose their life to be the winner, to be that mortal winner. Like it could go that far with them. They'll kill a bunch of babies. It'll be justified in their mind for whatever agenda they have. This is what I'm talking about. And that's why I said they have the potential to destroy families, communities, and nations, So even on a smaller scale, it's never small with them, because when you come into contact with a high-range narcissist, they can and typically will devastate your life in a way that you will never forget, in a way that you can recover, unless it's, of course, the end-all be-all of death here. And, the psychopathic ones that have been mass murderers and stuff like that, and have tortured people and stuff like that. So it gets really dark. But, when you haven't lost your life, once they leave, it's something that, what would I even call this? I'm trying to find the words. I am trying to find the words here, but, in a nutshell, they can devastate your life on a level that, could make you feel like you'd rather die, or, put astronomical healing that you would have to do, or the recovery phase, the rebuilding for what they've taken, like these are the big dogs of traumas. These are, like you'll never forget this person. You'll never forget them, and that doesn't have to be a bad thing, and there will be many devastating, lessons, very hard. This is, when you get screamed at by the universe type of thing, it might even leave you feeling like, okay, well, maybe I had to learn a lesson about this, but did I have to learn it like that? It's the harshest delivery of that lesson that you're going to learn from this high-range narcissist. And then if you've married them or entangled yourself in such a way, or basically they set up, because let's just think of this as a chessboard, maybe that's a better way or analogy of talking about them. Like they've thought about their first move to their last move. And you might say, well, yeah, narcissists are very calculating, Lakia. That's true. Even the lower range one will try to do this maybe. But I don't think, I know for sure. There's not even a think about it. They're not doing it on this kind of level, guys. And this is where you have to learn how to cut your losses. Cut your losses and not continue a war with them per se, because it's a war to them when you don't give them their way, when you don't fall in line. You're waging a war, and it could have been something small in your mind, and you do have the free will to say no to them for this small request, but because you did, now to them, revenge. These people, and this is what I want to say is one of their weaknesses, actually. This is a weakness of the high range narcissists I've noticed in them. And, these are narcissists, period, have this issue, but a high range narcissist, revenge runs extremely deep with them. And, they'll do anything to get revenge. And that could include even hurting themselves to hurt you. And of course, lower range and mid-range narcissists would do this as well. But the type of revenge that a high range narcissist could come up with, because their their intelligence is higher, it's going to be a harder blow. It is going to be more massive. It's going to be more devastating, chances are. But these people are capable of doing horrible things. And of course, so are the other narcissists. But again, I just want to reiterate, like, once we're on the high range of it, it's going to be more massive, and they have a higher probability of being able to be more covert about it for a long time, or they may even be able to go through their earthly life without really being held accountable for, their crimes. They maybe slide through the cracks and hide behind a title or a power of position, or, all of the flying monkeys and, the community that they have behind them. And then when people find out, this person is being accused of this, or this person is being done this or that, they may even gaslight themselves then to believe that they've done that, because they've already put them, as a do-gooder. And it's like, whoa, like, now you want me to psychologically believe that this person is capable of, or they've been doing this the whole time. So, and this is what you see with like pedophilia, or, being behind a sex ring, if you will, all types of dark things that they can be doing behind the scenes. And this is, of course, like I said, for the ones who haven't just succumbed to their dark side and they're pretty much out with it. But they're so structured with it, like, oh, I'm paying the police force, I'm paying the judges, I'm paying the lawyers, anyone that can be on your side. Like, you can't intercept my darkness because I've covered the angles on such a high level that it will take a lot for you to bring me down and to come up against me. And that's why, I don't recommend with the high range narcissists that you stay in wars with them. This is a great example of cutting your losses. Now, with the lower range narcissists, it's a lot easier to overcome them and to beat them at their game, basically. But the high range narcissists, they're thinking on levels that you're not, because you're not a sadistic person, and even if you understand what sadistic means and, some of the things, but they're just in that mode all the time. So, their ability to think on that level, they're going to outthink you with that. Okay. Yeah, this one right here, to me, talking about it, just finding the words really, but, malicious, sinister, like devilish, like you would think they are the devil, And of course, I do say on this channel that narcissists are demonic, the demons inside of them is a lot stronger. But these people, I don't want you to walk away from this just feeling like, oh, it's the boogeyman I should be afraid of. They have weaknesses as well. And like I said, their ego is part of their weaknesses, because revenge, they will have to seek revenge because they're so fragile. They're so fragile. With all of that intelligence and stuff, they're just fragile emotionally. And they never want to feel shame and embarrassed by other people. But yeah, the high range narcissist, that's something to take very, very, very serious. So many people have lost, their life savings, and it has devastated their lives in severe ways. But what I will say here on a light side of things is, when someone devastates your life like that and you're still alive, that lesson is so great that it's also providing an opportunity for you to shift in a way that you never have. So when you actually survive through this situation and come out of it on the other side, this is where you can be greater than you've ever been. That's on the plus side. But you have to, definitely follow the formula and have a support system and, not take this personally. Because they have devastated many people's lives, and those people have stayed in that and sat in that and have gotten swallowed by that. Now, obviously mental illness runs high with this person. And behind the scenes, they could have all types of mental issues going on that you don't even know about. So, like I say, it's great to cut your losses with a person like this, and it's the most intelligent thing to do more than not. Because they'll keep it going. This is fun to them and they never want to lose. So they will continue to be combative. They will continue to come for you. So, I'm going to stop here with this high range narcissist. But just be careful out here, especially if you're dealing with them. I mean, they all have these traits, but like I said, when it's coming on the high range, this person is going to be a lot more controlled about it. And, yeah. These are the people that can turn a whole community against you, and you will feel like this isn't right. It's not fair, but they've already thought ahead so far. And it would be a lot of work for you to turn this around and bring them down. But know, the harder you jab at them, the more sinister and sadistic they're going to do and be with you. And it will expand beyond the realm of what you may even be considered as revenge. Okay? But yeah, these are the ones that are priming people for abuse on the highest level, and you don't even know it, that they're already priming you by doing this and that, just priming you for it. And before you know it, it's kind of like the crab that gets put in the pot on the stove, and the water is not hot, so you don't know that you're being cooked until it's too late. And once we get high on the scale, you may not even know, unless you have a high discernment, that you're even dealing with a psychopath or this high range narcissist, because they've been covert with you. They haven't bought you in as that level of supply where they would drop the mask with you, or you would know. But like I said, the more you understand about narcissism and the looks that they have in their eyes and the energy that they carry with them, you'll be able to feel this energy when you meet people. you know, and I'm going to make a video about the narcissist in their eyes. But yeah, man, the high range narcissists are nothing to play with. That's why it's so important that you understand how this works. But in a situation like this, once they feel like they need something from you, or, you're going to be a part of their plan, or you have a role in their mind that they need for you to do something, or they want for you to do it. And that's the whole thing. They're going to come to you. And then when you reject that, it's a tit for tat with them. Only they're trying to turn the tat into like a whole collapse. Like, it could be the smallest of offense in your mind, and they will turn it into something gigantic for sure. And it's like, whoa, like it's not a fair fight, for sure. It's not a fair fight. It's like someone telling you, you know what? I want to fight you fair and square after school today. But they show up with like 20 of their friends and some guns and weapons, and here you are. You took it at face value that they just wanted to fight you. And, they're going to make it so that they can devastate and annihilate you. So, you can never take anything that they say at face value. It's always, when we're going down this rabbit hole, it's just always so much more with them. Because just like the lower range and the mid-range narcissists, they're very vested in winning at all costs. But this person has the mental capacity to really think about and see these angles, okay? So, I hope that this is helping somebody here. And, I hate to just sit here and talk about all the negatives, but, this person is very capable, like I said, of harming a lot of people and devastating people's lives, all right?